Hi everyone, I'm Shelby Morrison. I'm Director of Artist Relations and Curatorial Operations for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I know most of you, but if there's some of you I don't know, it's nice to meet you. This is my second time to Nashville, and earlier this week I came over here with some of our team to do a walkthrough of the space, and we went upstairs to where we're going to have lunch and after this. And there's a bunch of silver records on the wall. They're all framed, and they have artist names on them and songs. And the gal who was showing us around told me that Blake Shelton had picked all of these songs himself. And then she pointed out that there's women in every row. And part of me thought, well, I really appreciate the fact that they're being inclusive. But then the other part of me thought, I really want us to get to a point where it just happens naturally and we don't have to point it out. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. So I'm very happy to introduce our very special guests. Martina and Amanda, you both have brought your unique voices and style that have helped further modernize the image of women in country music. Amanda Shires, Emerging Artist of the Year, 2017 Americana Music Awards. Grammy winner, 2018, Best Americana Album with the 400 unit. 2019 Americana Award nomination for Album of the Year for the Sunset. 2020 ACM Group of the Year nomination for The High Women. Martina McBride, multi-Grammy nominee, has sold over 23 million albums to date, including 20 top 10 singles and 6 #1 hits. What is
old?
That? Martina has earned more than 15 major music awards, including 4 wins for Female Vocalist of the Year from the Country Music Association and 3 ACM awards for Top Female Vocalist. Welcome, Martina. Welcome, Amanda. Thank you.
It's great to be
Let's
here.
give it for them. So we're going to start. Both of these women are amazing and daring in their careers. The first question I have is for both of you. What was your first job in the music industry or music business?
I played in a little kids band called the Ranch Dance Fiddle Band, where we played Western swing and music that predated that, and worked a lot with the Texas Playboys, and that's how I landed the next gig.
That's awesome. That's my answer. I grew up singing. My dad had a local band in Kansas, and I started singing in that band when I was about 7 years old, and so. But my first job in the actual music industry was I sold T-shirts for Garth Brooks.
That's awesome. We all love Garth. Yeah. So who were some of your musical influences? We were talking upstairs about how this music runs deep. Who do you cite, both of you, as your influences?
One of my first influences was, sort of when you're a teenager and you discover your artist or your music was Linda Ronstadt. I was a huge fan. I got all of her records, and I would come home from school every day and sing for hours, trying to sound like that. And then Pat Benatar, we talked about earlier, I'm so happy, is, being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I was kind of obsessed with Pat Benatar and Linda Ronstadt and Bonnie Raitt. Aretha.
I always wanted to sound like Etta. My first influences, I think, were the Playboys, and then the songwriter Cindy Walker. I was a big fan of hers and still am. Then I would say all kinds of stuff from George Jones to Leonard Cohen's my ultimate favorite. And, Sheryl Crow, Martina McBride, I don't know why I have to sit this close to her, but here I am.
Martina, at the beginning of your career, you had a really bold and daring way that you got your music noticed. How did you get RCA to pay attention to your demo submission?
Well, somebody told me a little trick. They said, first of all, we were so green. I didn't know anything about the music business, but they said, you can't just walk in off the street and give them your demo tape. They're not going to accept something like that. So what you need to do is you need to get an envelope and put your demo tape, back then it was a cassette tape, 100 years ago, and you need to write on the envelope requested material, because then they'll think they asked for it and they'll listen to it, and that's what I did, and that's what happened.
That's amazing.
Who found it?
I sort of dropped it off at the front desk, and the head of A&R at that time at RCA Records was Randy Talmadge. And like 3 weeks later, I got a phone call, said they wanted to see a showcase. And
That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was fun.
Amazing. And then Amanda, you started with the Texas Playboys. How did that happen? How did you join the Texas Playboys?
Well, I love the music, and I was happy to play whatever part they wanted me to play. Like, I was good with the group, and I was happy to play the third fiddle part, which is the lower part that doesn't have a lot of movement. I was happy to play whatever part they want to give me. I don't care. I showed up on time, and all my stuff worked at all times. That's how I did it, because most of it, a lot of times, is what I've seen, and I've compared every band to this experience because they were the best, but is that you can learn the parts, and if you're not on time or you're an asshole, you get fired real quick.
And how old were you when you joined them?
I was, you know, they kind of would let me come in, and then I started getting more and more work with them, so I was 14 when I, was doing that, but at this time they were doing, it was kind of like having like 6 or 9 granddads. At this time, they were doing like weekends and like cowboy symposiums and stuff like that. So it was easier than what you think of when you think of touring currently. Yeah. Nice for me. I was a teenager.
All right. So Loretta Lynn, The Pill. Dolly Parton, 9 to 5. Reba McEntire, I'm a Survivor. Martina McBride, this one's for the girls. Amanda Shires, The High Women. Your work is a continuum of women's voices and strength, and you both sing songs that lift women up and portray them with a lot of power and a lot of strength. Have songs like The Pill, 9 to 5, those type of songs inspired you on the songs that you write, that you choose to record? How do you choose the songs that you feel will be impactful?
Yeah, I mean, I always, it's interesting that you say that, because one of my sort of, I never really, don't think I set out to do this intentionally, but I guess I did, because I always thought I wanted to find songs that portrayed women with dignity and strength. And, there were a lot of fluffy songs. I always call them like fluffy girl songs that I wasn't interested in doing. And so, yeah, I mean, it was, I guess, growing up hearing, like you said, Loretta, Dolly, Reba, did influence me, I think, because I did, like I said, make a conscious decision to not record songs that, I don't know, just to record songs that I felt like mattered to somebody,
I feel like country music at its best is storytelling, and I feel a lot of times that lately it's gotten away from that, and I choose mine because I like to try and actively reinstate truth-telling in my music, which you could call it country or whatever you want to call it. I call it country. I'm a country person, but then I don't know, I've got a lot of things about this, so I picked mine to actively try and reinstate truth-telling, and also to at the same time get a message across that you might not normally be able to get across in normal conversation.
I think you're both truth tellers. You're both storytellers. Do you feel a responsibility now at this point in your careers to continue to choose songs that are impactful, not only to fans and artists, but to culture? Or do you feel like you have the flexibility to maybe do a fluffy song every once in a while? Or is that something that is like weighs on you while you're making choices about your work?
Not for me. For me, it's still as simple as being drawn to a song. It's like we all are drawn to music. A song, you hear a song, you either like it or you don't like it. It's just kind of the same thing for me anyway, that, you're inspired by a song, or that's a song that I want as part of my catalog or my show or whatever, yeah.
Can you re-say it one more time? I was enamored by these blue eyes.
I know. Well, basically, the three of us were talking upstairs about how representation matters.
Right.
When you're writing songs or performing songs, do you feel like, is that a stress on you or a responsibility that?
I feel it like it's my luxury to be able to have a place to say something that means something to me, and that somebody might listen to it. I also feel like it's also part of like my character to want to observe and notice the disparities or whatever is being, people are being harmed or not noticed, or if the world needs to band together and heal each other kind of songs or whatever. I feel like it's like we're all kind of in it together, and there's a collective unconscious at work too that kind of steers it all. But also I just feel I'm lucky to have a place where I can actually say my feelings and somebody pays attention that's not a troll on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and we're all lucky too, because going back to representation, what we do at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is really teach people that music doesn't just start with who you're listening to on the radio now, that it goes back generations and it's all influential. And if you're a young person and you're watching a music video and all you see are women who are barefoot with their feet up on the dashboard and someone's girlfriend, if that's the only representation that you're seeing of what a female is, then we're lucky to have women like you who show us that there's more choices than that.
I have a lot to say about that. Because when you put it that way, I mean, I don't think now necessarily I go into choosing songs with that responsibility on my shoulders, but I do think at some point, yes. And when we're talking about representation, we were talking upstairs about the fact that right now, which you might be getting to, are you getting to the radio thing that's next? Okay, you go ahead and ask the question, then I'll talk about it. But yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, we are in a place right now where there isn't a lot of representation on country radio in country music for females. And it's like there's a whole generation. I was talking with my husband last night that since Miranda Lambert came out in 2005, right, there hasn't been anybody. There's like a whole generation. There's 17 years of no Shania, Faith, Winona, you know what I mean? Like, it's just this missing, in history it'll go down as this missing chunk of time where we haven't had that kind of representation. And I think of all the young women who listen to country music, and like our point of view, the woman's point of view is not being heard. It's not being put out there for young girls to listen to, for women to listen to feel like they are connected with this music.
And that's not y'all's choice. Y'all are making music that's impactful. It's the people who are not sharing it with the world. Whoever's in that room making that decision to not play those records. Actually, I have a stat here. In 2019, the Annenberg Inclusionist Initiative reported data that women only received 16% of radio airplay in country music between 2014 and 2018.
Wow.
And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. And we have a lot to talk about.
It was 13% when I had the idea of the High Women, and it hasn't gone up much since. But the good thing that we're doing is we're having this conversation right now, because this is a place where we can.
Well, while we're talking about it, Amanda, so Amanda founded the High Women, if y'all weren't aware of that. And if you don't know who they are, take a listen. How did you come up with that idea, and how did the High Women come about?
Well, I love the Highwaymen, firstly. They're a wonderful group, if you haven't heard of them. Wonderful. They were kind of started as a super group, but in response to ageism in country music. Anyhow, I was riding around in my touring van before I had a bus, and the aux cord broke on my phone, and I was listening to country music radio or sports ball, and I started listening and driving, and then I started writing down every song I heard, and in 20 songs, I heard one song on the radio that was in a woman's voice, and I decided to call the radio stations after this point and request to hear anything, and some of this is on the internet, you could find that later, and then another, 20 more songs go by, it's only one other woman's voice. And I'm riding down the road and I'm thinking, man, that sucks. It also sucks that this is the only thing I can hear right now. And I just started thinking about my daughter, who was at this time 9 months old. And I was like, she's going to join the music business someday. You just know it. You don't want them to, but they will. And she's not going to do the kind of rock and roll or I was like, at this point, my husband was playing death metal and, while he was driving, and it's not as scary as you might think. It's just a lot of power chords. Anyhow, I was like, she could do metal. What's nothing wrong with that? She could do rock and roll, whatever, Christian, all these genres, play women. And I was like, what's the worst that could happen? Country music. That would be awful, because at this point we're only allowed to hear one woman's voice at a time. And this has been proven in an email that's been floating around not that recently, but there's a lady named Natalie Stovall. I hope I have her whole name right. But they even, we were trying to get her signed, and it's like, we already picked our one girl. And then you're trying to walk around in this country music world, and you're expected to be best friends with all these people, and at the same time, there's only one spot, and so you are kind of like fighting for this one spot. All that to say, I decided I was going to start a group, and I was going to call ourselves the High Women, and we were going to sing songs that told stories, like kind of take it back to Mother Maybelle days, like everything should be. I mean, not should. What do I know about what it should be? But just a response, and it's more than just a lack of women in country music. It's a lack of color in country music, and there's a lot of work to be done, and I could keep on going, but I digress.
Yes. Amen. Yes. Perfect. And so let's talk about Tomatogate. I'm going to explain what Tomatogate is in case no one knows. Tomatogate was a 2015 controversy stemming from comments made by a radio consultant regarding the underrepresentation of women in the playlists of country music radio stations. Keith Hill is his name. I don't mind saying it. He advocated that stations not play songs by women back to back, and drew an analogy with the composition of a salad, with the male artists as the lettuce and the female artists as the tomato garnish. And so, I know, I can see Patty Baker's jaw dropping, same. The comments sparked outcry to address the gender gap in country music. And Martina, you sold a tomato t-shirt for the women and a tomato lover t-shirt for the men, with the proceeds going to your charitable foundation. Why did you create the tomato shirt?
Well, first of all, I was reading, I don't know if I saw that first on Facebook, saw it somewhere on the internet, and I'd had a couple glasses of wine when I read that article of those things that he said, and I was so pissed off, like I was so mad. So I immediately wrote out, like a response to it, and I woke up the next morning and it was picked up everywhere, and I was like, oh, damn, okay, well. But I just came up with the idea of creating that shirt just to bring awareness to the fact that this was going on. And what really made me mad about that article, well, lots of things, but one thing that he said was that women don't want to hear women on country radio.
And that's so wrong. That's not true.
That's not true.
And that was what really stood out to me. I was like, what? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, we all listen to music because we want to connect with it. We want to hear stories. We want to be able to feel like somebody's singing about our life and something that we understand. And so I just was so, and then, later somebody brought that up in a room full of country music fans, and all the women were like, what? Like, that is just not true. But he said it as truth, and I just thought it was so dangerous because it trickles down. If country radio isn't playing female artists, then songwriters stop writing songs for female artists. Record companies stop signing female artists, as you were saying. It affects touring. It affects everything. So it's just such a dangerous thing that he sort of just threw out there.
And then the result is the folks that listen to the music can't find themselves in the music, and they start growing up thinking that their identity or sense of self has to fit like, I like wearing little short shorts, or you have to be a thing in the world. You have to be under 30, and you have to be able to sit on the back of a tailgate for all hours of the night or whatever and drink beer. But there's that, but you can be that, but there's a lot of other things you can be too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I just think that's wrong. I know it's wrong, and I know it's not the way it should. If only Mother Maybelle were here right now.
Yeah. Because we were talking about how, we all grew up with Mother Maybelle, Loretta Lynn, Dolly, all these people, Reba. that kind of gave me the idea that I could do this. Like if I got in the right place at the right time with the right set of circumstances and all of the luck in the world, maybe I could be a country music artist, right? Growing up in Kansas, that's what I believed. And now you have all of these young women who don't have any real role models currently, to feel like they could do that. So, I mean, I don't even know how that affects the way that they see themselves. And
I should have checked this before I came in, but I doubt that there's 3 women in the top 20 right now.
no, probably not.
Someone Google it.
Yeah,
Ryan.
I'm just curious because I haven't checked it in a couple weeks.
Well, that fast forward from 15 to 2019, both of you shared the stage at the Bridgestone Arena here in Nashville for the 53rd annual CMA Awards for a special performance as a tribute to country women in music. So it was y'all and Tanya Tucker and Carrie Underwood and Dolly and Reba and Crystal Gale and all these amazing women who came out and did this.
Was that the first time it ever happened?
I believe it was the first time it ever happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So why do you think the CMAs did that, and what was that experience like to pay tribute? And I will say, if you haven't watched it, I watched it last night, and I was like in tears because it has all of my female heroes, including the both of you, and then it concludes with Independence Day, and they were showing the other musicians in the audience, and everyone knew the words. Everyone at home knew the words. It's an anthem. So what was that moment like in 2019 after the Tomato Gate, and after you're starting to form the High Women were on stage? What was that experience like?
I mean, for me, I was shocked the entire time to be standing there. I was like, how did they let me on this stage? And I was thinking, this could be the moment where, you ascend to heaven. And then I was very, very just honored and grateful for whatever had happened in the universe to bring us all together in a row like that. And there was a whole issue of trying not to faint. That's what I was feeling.
And then everything parted, and then you came out to the center stage with looking amazing and singing Independence Day with your powerful voice. What was that moment like for you?
It was amazing. It was amazing. It was kind of like Amanda said, just to be there with all of those other women and to be part of honoring the tradition of women in country music, was really powerful. And at the same time, I thought to myself, why is this so special? You know what I mean? Like you were talking about with the records, it's like, okay, they gave us a moment, right. But that's really a cynical way to look at it. It was amazing.
Well, but
They gave you a moment, but at the same time, you're hoping they're just not giving you a moment, that the moment doesn't have to just be one moment in time. There
That's
should
what I
be
was trying to
multiple moments.
Yeah.
And that's not cynical. It's just a natural, the natural dynamic of fear and hope. But I think it's okay to hope and expect the world not to be that much of a downer. We're going to change it either, but right now we are by talking about it, because
That's right.
that's all it is, really. If you see something, you should say something, even about women in country music. Just tell all your friends.
That's right.
Well, and at that award show, Jennifer Nettles performed with y'all on that stage, and she wore a cape. Her outfit was very of the moment, and on the inside of the cape, it said, "Play our effing records," but it had the actual F word. And then on the back of her jacket, it said, "Equal play." Well, she immediately got pushback from radio stations, programs, and personalities, and the next day saying things on the radio like, well, you need to make records that sound more like men, or you need to make better records. And so I don't think it is cynical. I think it's, in 2019, it was still necessary. It was just on her jacket, let alone having...
How dare she?
Exactly.
Yeah.
How dare she buck the system and say something like that?
I love it. I think sonically there's something going on too. I feel like when I, was having the records we talked about, women could kind of coexist with men on the radio sonically. Like the songs, we had, if you had a Concrete Angel, then you might have a Rascal Flatts song, and music was so much more diverse, musically diverse, but the production and the songwriting. And now there's just kind of this homogenized, I guess they called it bro country, I don't know what it's called now, but where it's just this one sound and this one subject matter, And it's really hard for women to do that. It's just not a natural thing. So
I call that the money button. They just keep pushing the money button, because really what it is and what has happened since the time when we used to hear a lot more ladies in country music, like you could turn on the radio and hear Trisha Yearwood, Martina McBride, the Dixie Chicks, list goes on. Well, what happened is that one corporation bought everything. And so that's what's got to change, basically. And that's the first part of the solution. And then there's a trickle down after that. And then it's up to label heads and radio programs realizing that it's lucrative to have diversity. Anyway, I don't want to say.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Well, one thing that I learned in coming to Nashville, and I was talking to Daniel about it, was have you heard of this term boyfriend country?
I just heard about it upstairs.
Yes.
When you said it.
So let me tell you about boyfriend country. It's kind of how they're addressing the Me Too movement. So it's a new breed of male country singers who honor women in the Me Too movement by treating women like humans deserving of love. So they're not going to sing songs about cheating on you anymore. Basically, the country audiences don't need to let women tell their own stories because the loving men in their lives can do it for them. What is your response to that?
Men never write women's characters very well in any kind of book or song, so I'd like to hear it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I think that's some bullshit.
It is. It's shocking, really. It's like, it's the opposite of the Me Too movement, right? It's just, it's yeah, that's crazy.
Boyfriend country.
Boyfriend country. It's a thing that came up in my research. I'd never heard of it, which may be a good thing. Maybe it's not a real thing, and someone just made it up, and we don't have to talk about it.
I like it.
You like it?
I'm interested. I'm gonna go do some research.
Do some research.
on my
And then create girlfriend country, where the
We
women
can
tell
build
the
up the
story.
men.
Yes.
Yeah?
We
Is
all
that what
just
we're-
need to build each other up, right?
Yeah, right.
So that just comes to the question, how do we advocate? What can people in this room do? How can we advocate for female artists, in your opinion? What do you do to advocate for female artists? I know you just, Brittany Spencer, tell that story.
I believe that whoever is singing a song and is really good at singing should be allowed to sing their songs. Brittany twittered at me, and her voice was nuts, and that's all it takes, really, I think. Anyway, what about that? Advocating for women, I think it's you don't just talk about it, be about it. Like if you want to advocate for women, you would have them open your shows. You would invest in their careers somehow, buy records and shirts, go to their shows, because really the only way to make money now is to sell tickets or T-shirts. And then I think that electing folks that can help break up the monopolies would really help. And after that, just call it out when you see it. Like if you just see a bunch of lineups with no women on them, like at your festivals and your shows, I think, it's okay to make a racket. Guys don't gotta worry about your jobs in country music, but we do.
So Martina, after years of crossover pop success, in 2005 you released the album Timeless, which is the first album that you produced by yourself. What was that experience like?
Well, that record was really a labor of love. It was a love project for traditional country music. I really just wanted to make a record that paid tribute to the country records that I grew up hearing, the artists, the musicians, the style of production. It was a covers record of classic country songs. So producing that, I've always had I know Amanda too, we have had a large role in the production of our records. We're producers. And so, so it really wasn't that much different, to be honest. It's something
That's
that I
great.
always had done and played a big part in. So, but it was fun to make that record. Yeah, definitely.
Well, and shame on me for being like, oh, you produced a record by yourself.
No,
Tell
no,
us
no.
about that. And Amanda, you have a new album coming out this summer called Take It Like a Man.
Yep.
Why did you name it Take It Like a Man?
Because you're supposed to, in this new age, we're supposed to talk about our feelings and all that, right? And we're supposed to have our feelings, our big emotions, and all this stuff. My whole life, I was told to take it like a man. Don't have your feelings. To be successful, you've got to not show it. All this business, and then it's a reversal of roles. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to you like I've been getting it, you know. And I'm not gonna give away the whole record, but it's like it's kind of a it's a social commentary on life and marriage and sexuality past the age of 40. Maybe it exists for you, maybe it doesn't, but it does for me. And it's a lot of things, but it's storytelling at its finest. You'll see, July 29th.
That's my birthday. Happy birthday! Yeah, it's sure to be a success now.
Yeah.
That's released on my birthday. No, I'm kidding. But
Amazing. We're
I
going to
can't
have
wait
to
hear
have
it.
we'll have to plan a party, a birthday party and an album release party.
There you
At the
go.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for y'all in July.
Great, I'll be there.
All right, let's do it. Speaking of social awareness, you both obviously sing socially aware songs. Independence Day, one of my favorite songs of all time. If y'all haven't heard it, it's an anthem portraying an abused wife and mother reaching a breaking point. It was named CMA Song of the Year in 1995, and you've sang about domestic violence and abuse in other songs, A Broken Wing, Concrete Angel, and you're a committed advocate for domestic violence survivors. Why do these stories and songs resonate with you?
You know, when I heard Independence Day, it just did something to me. It just awakened this passion and this anger and this, like, I grew up in a really small town. I grew up in a town of about 180 people. Obviously a close-knit community, farmers. Nobody talked about domestic violence. I mean, it just wasn't talked about. Statistically, you know it was happening, right? But nobody ever talked about it. And I heard Independence Day, and I was like, I just kind of woke up, interestingly enough, to this issue, and it just made me furious and so wanting to do something to make a difference for all of these women and children that go through this and fear for their lives, basically. So that song changed my life. It changed my career, but it also changed my life.
Well, and thank you for that, because it changed so many people's lives and continues to, and it is an anthem. And, you know, Amanda, you also sing socially aware songs. Your song, The Problem, is about a couple having an honest, difficult conversation about abortion. The track's release actually coincided with International Safe Abortion Day, and the proceeds from its sales go to the Yellowhammer Fund, which is a reproduction justice organization in Alabama. Originally, I read this, tell me if I'm wrong, you envisioned the song as a conversation among women, and you actually released a version of the song with an all-star group called Our Problem, with Cyndi Lauper, Kay Flay, Lily Hyatt, Linda Perry, Valerie June, Peaches, and others. Sorry, I'm reading this
That's
because
okay.
I don't want to get it
I
wrong.
like it.
What does this song mean to you, and how did you bring the group of women together to record Our Problem?
You know, this is a big ball of problem right now, because we just all know about this Alito thing. So women's reproductive health and access to safe abortions is so important. I mean, November 8th is coming. But forced birth is cruel. You can do all the short slogans. I decided to do it because nobody else was doing it.
It was something that you needed, that you felt like, kind of like the domestic abuse. It's an issue that no one's addressing, that we need to make aware. That it does impact women, it impacts families, it impacts everybody.
Then you put your own story up there, and that's cool. But then it's really not as easy as you think, because you get a lot of death threats. But
Death threats?
you know, people don't want you to talk about stuff. But even more recently, I had a miscarriage in Texas, and I had an ectopic pregnancy, and they had to take my fallopian tube out because it had ruptured, and I bled 18 hours internally. 3 weeks later, Texas changed, and then you can't have the medicine to make that safely, the ectopic pregnancy that's not viable, exit, so your only choice is to let your fallopian tube explode now. So there's a lot of things that go along with this that people are forgetting about. And that is cynical.
Well, God bless you. I mean,
Or cruel.
thank you for your honesty and for sharing that with us.
People just think that it's all about one thing.
Because at the end of the day, we all just want to be safe and healthy, no matter what gender you are, no matter who you are, you know?
And this choice doesn't affect anybody outside or your neighbor. It's a choice somebody makes alone or with their doctor. It doesn't affect other people. It's different than the other kind of choices, which affect people.
Right. Well, thank you both for your strength. Yes, thank you both for your strength, and keep telling these stories, because even though you might not see it or feel it, you are changing people's lives with your words and your music and your melodies. So, and with that, all three of us are mothers up here. We all have daughters. You both have songs that include, talk about the difficulties and gifts that come along with that. And neither of you have hidden the fact that you're mothers, which I think is really amazing. Amanda, your daughter Mercy makes appearances on stage with you when you're doing with the 400 unit. Martina, you included the sound of your baby daughter laughing on your #1 hit, Wild Angels. Mom isn't your only name, your only title. What role does motherhood play in your career? How do you find balance between your family and your career? And is that a hard thing to do? Both.
I always said it wasn't hard,
Because you're supposed to say that.
and
You're
then
supposed to
it's
say that,
really
right?
hard. It was. I look back now and go, that was hard. You know, taking the kids on the road. I was lucky. I had a partner. My husband was also on the road with me. Still is as my sound engineer. So, you know, I had somebody I could hand the baby off to. It wasn't like it was all me, but you know, it's just at the time it didn't seem hard because you just do what you do, right? You just put your head down and you go and do whatever it is that it takes to do it. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to have a career, and so you just do whatever it takes.
Yep, that's true.
I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I think my girls grew up, you know, growing up on the road. Your daughter, they meet a ton of people. They have sort of this road family that loves them, and they're very adaptable. They get to travel, and I mean, it's been really good for them too. So,
If I have to say anything, I would like to hear more people describe its hardships, because I just was blind to it. Everybody made it look so easy, and I didn't know anything about being on the road as a mom. I thought you could just give your baby to your roadie, and that didn't work out for me. And so then I started bringing my family on sometimes, anyway. I think it's everything, though, because you have a lot of hope for the world changing, and then hopefully it will, and then you'll see your kids go on to make the world a better place and all that. And it's also, like, for me, the driving force, not only for finding money and groceries, but it's the driving force for being able to find courage within myself to speak up.
To be a role model for not only your fans, but for your family, your daughters. So speaking of that, you're both pioneers, you're both groundbreakers. How do you feel about the fact that future generations of not only artists, but fans are going to listen to your music and be inspired by that? Have you thought about your legacy and sort of how, when you're making music, do you think about how it's going to live on past what you're doing? Is there an impact?
music is so powerful. I always say this, songs are so powerful, and it's a, you said luxury, it's a responsibility, it's a blessing to be able to do what we do and to make a difference for somebody. And you know, music can take you back to a certain moment in your life. It can make you feel understood. It can make you feel like you're not the only one going through whatever you're going through. It can make you, you know, just want to dance. I mean, not everything has to be super heavy, but it's I'm so grateful and blessed and thankful that I got to do this with my life, you know. So I don't think of it necessarily as a legacy, but more, it's definitely a privilege.
I like to dance. I like the community of music, just knowing there's like-minded people. And I mean, and also music is powerful. I just wanted to add to this because very few things that happen to you or that whatever can take you back to a moment. Like, you hear a song and you're like, I remember that whole summer because of that one song. Not even my best journaling can help me remember a good day, or a bad day. It's just like that song. I remember exactly what it was like. As far as legacy, I've never considered it because I think when I sit down and make up songs and record songs, I don't ever see myself dying.
All right, that's fair.
I'm gonna be immortal.
Well, you've written songs about that with Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, what if we were vampires, right?
I should consider my legacy, but I guess that'll just be mercy. I don't know. Who knows what's gonna happen? Shelby,
don't have to
what's
figure it out
What
today.
is it? What is our legacy?
No idea.
No idea.
I think it's for somebody else. I think it's for other people
You
to.
know what? Maybe other people will
to
want to be
decide.
high women too. Like start some
Yeah.
more high women bands. You know,
Yeah.
the girlfriend country or whatever.
Yeah, girlfriend
Girlfriend,
country.
Also, Martina and I were talking, there's a crossroads, a CMT crossroads, where she and Pat Benatar sing together, which I have not seen, and Daniel said it's uploaded to Paramount Plus, so we all have to check that out too.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Like, that's something you don't ever dream of, right?
What was her vocal warm up like?
I wasn't with her when she did her vocal warm up, but
was just hoping it
I
was
mean, I'm
loud.
just sort of like standing there on stage going, okay, because I have to say, I told you this earlier. So when Pat Benatar came out when I was probably 14, I don't know, I haven't done the math, but I was a teenager, and I was folding towels at my grandma's house, listening to Casey Kasem's Top 40, like I did every Sunday, and she came, and this song came on, Heartbreaker, and I was like, what is that? That was so amazing to me. It changed me because it was so rock and roll and so powerful and so, like, I just wanted to be her for about 10 years.
Well,
And then I got to sing on stage with her, and I was like, how is this even happening? You know, it was so cool. And then I told you, like, you can kind of maybe dream of singing Pat Benatar songs with Pat Benatar at some point, but you never think to yourself, but I have songs, and she's singing my songs. That is so crazy to me. You know, I think it's so great that we still have moments. You know, people think that all of this stuff is so, like, nonchalant for us, but we get starstruck and have moments that are so powerful, and we're lucky to get to do what we do. Yeah.
I think that's why we're all here, honestly, is those moments, they only happen, you know, when magic happens, it happens. Yeah. And speaking of magic, in 2019, the Academy of Country Music presented you with the Cliffy Stone Icon Award for your contributions in country music, which is amazing. And the Country Music Hall of Fame opened up an exhibit about you in 2021 called Power of Her Voice. And then I read that 2022 is actually your 30th anniversary as a recording artist. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, amazing. So what's next? What are you working on now? What's coming up on the horizon for you?
More music.
Thank you.
Yeah, more music. I'll always make music. I didn't, you know, I think the pandemic affected everyone. We all were affected, and some people used that as a time to be creative and, like, really productive. I, however, did not. I used it as kind of a time to rest, and so I don't have, like, music that's imminently coming out, but I am always thinking of, and I'm a kind of person that has to sort of be inspired, like it has to hit me, you know, so who knows what's next. We'll
And
see.
I think rest is just as important as creativity, because that's where, you know, you need that yin to the yang to be able to put those creative things together.
Yeah.
Amanda, your new album, Take It Like a Man, comes out. What else you got planned this summer? What's coming up for you besides, in addition to the new album?
We have some, with the High Women, we have some pre-COVID makeup dates we're gonna do, and we're gonna make a live recording of that experience and work on LP 2 and record 2 of the High Women, and then Jason's got a new record he starts recording in August, and I'm one of the people that's like, if I'm not busy, I feel like I'm gonna be in trouble, so I'm always doing something.
Well, my last question was, what is the power of music? But I think we've already kind of addressed that.
Power of music, look at all us right now in this room right now. It's so good. We
This
got
is the
cinnamon
power.
rolls over there.
So, one thing that that we were talking about upstairs, just to, before we take a couple questions from the audience, about we're talking about Dolly and, you know, why she is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, why she isn't, we don't care because rock and roll is a spirit. And I feel like both of you could very easily, you're both rock and roll. You both do, you pioneer, you're trailblazers, you do what inspires you, and there's nothing more rock and roll than that. So thank you both so much for being here with us.
Thank you.